The Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. With your hosts, Joe Bob.
You're awful.
And AJ Applegarth.
It's Sin Shu Chu. It's a mouthful.
Welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me, as usual, donning my least favorite Orioles shirt ever, is Mr. AJ Applegarth. What's up, man?
I've got 2 words, both 5 letters, Dylan and Bundy. And he got rocked and gave me negative 20 points yesterday by his old team.
Welcome back to Camden Yards. Did not go so well, even with the pushback.
Yeah, but it works because first name, last name, both 5 letters. Today's Cinco de Mayo celebratory shirt. And
there you go.
Yeah, That's why. There's a method to my madness at all times.
Yeah. So tonight we're going to be talking about the new dead ball and how it's affecting your fantasy baseball strategy. And then we're going to be jumping into, we're about a month into the season. We're going to be jumping into some players that, had kind of those hot starts or the slow starts. And now the last couple of weeks, they've kind of turned things around and just kind of, figure out really who these players are, and who we expect them to be the rest of the season type of thing. And of course, we've got a great guest. I'll get to that in a minute. But before we jump into there, just remind everybody, hit that like button, that share button, leave us those reviews, subscribe to us on YouTube, and we appreciate all of you for listening and watching. But last but not least, beer of the week, or drink of the week, I guess I should say this week.
Beer.
I'm going to go first because yours is much better than mine. But I'm cracking open a other half. I had this actually on the NFL draft show last weekend, but didn't count it one of the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour, so I get to do it again. Other half, triple Mosaic Dream. It's an Imperial IPA, 10.5%. So I'm going strong on Cinco de Mayo with my beer.
All
Cheers.
right. I also am going strong and long with the drink of choice for Cinco de Mayo,
Absolutely, man.
Homemade margarita with special accoutrements of added alcohol. So cheers.
Added alcohol, nice. Yeah, this was
oh yeah,
nice. I like it. So, all right, man, let's bring in our guest of the week, returning for I don't know how many times now. It feels like a lot again, but we love having him on. Mr. Ryan Kirksey writes for Fantasy Six-Pack, writes for Razzball, writes for your Fantrax or Fantasy Alarm. I had the wrong note sheet up for some reason.
All the above.
Yeah. Anyways, a lot of them, man. You're all over the place, but we're glad to have you on to discuss this topics for the night. But yeah, how you doing, man?
Better than the Cincinnati Reds pitchers. I'm doing pretty great. They don't care about a dead ball. But yeah, things are great around here. Just trying to figure out what to do with these fantasy teams and looking forward to talking through it with you guys.
Yeah,
all
absolutely, right. Man. So I guess we should just jump right into that, right? We already said the topic of the day, man, is the dead ball. Or at least that's what people are calling it, right? We don't really know what it is, but offensive production is at a ridiculous low pace. I mean, I'm talking 4.08 runs per game on average. Last year was 4.5. We're looking at 4.4 back in 2018. I mean, the next lowest, in 2014 it was 4.07, so that was a pretty bad year too. But Just it hasn't been this low in a while. The batting average is at like an all-time low at 232. I mean, we've been seeing that decrease year after year, but this is a pretty drastic drop from 244 the year before. Home runs are still below 1 a game. RBI are below 4 a game. Just everything is down, man. It's not good.
Consistency with stolen bases, though.
Yeah, that is kind of funny.
Been way down for the last 10 years, it looks like.
Well, yes. I mean, I guess this, what's your thought about this offensive, lull here? Like, do you actually think it's a dead ball thing, or do you think it's just weather and maybe like once it starts getting warmer, things are gonna, get back to normal?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and you're starting to hear things from the players that really add some context to this. Some of them think that there are multiple types of baseballs out there, right? And so, yeah, we can point to it and say, well, it's just a dead ball. But, in the piece that I did for Fantasy Six Pack, I looked sort of at the April/March for the past 8 years, and, you count for weather or normalize when you look at it that way, and still the offensive numbers are way down. I mean, you're talking, when you look at the past 8 years, less than 200 home runs less than in previous years. Batting average, slugging percentages that have just been in the tank, as you said before. I mean, just to sort of add some perspective to this, these are numbers that we have not seen since the 1968 season, when baseball took drastic changes, lowering the pitching mound, shrinking the strike zone. The numbers we are seeing now, we have not seen since that season.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy what we're seeing, and my fault. I totally forgot to mention that you wrote an article about this on Fantasy Six Pack just a couple days ago. Like, I was thinking about talking about this topic, and then boom, your article comes up, and I was like, perfect, we're doing it. He's coming on the show, so it worked out perfectly. I mean, I guess, who when they say multiple types of baseball, so they mean like certain teams are getting like maybe better balls for offense than other ones? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so one of the stories that came out before the season started was, okay, every park in the majors is going to start using a humidor now, which the players expected. I think many analysts expected that it's going to normalize sort of what happens with these balls, right? So whatever environment you're in, the humidor is going to sort of give us a sense of we're all playing this level playing field here. But what we're hearing from players, again, this is not something that MLB is going to come out and tell us. But what we're hearing from players is that it feels like to them that different parks that they travel to are using different balls. And so, that's sort of, there are multiple layers to what you can think about that. But just in the bottom line, no matter what they're doing, the offensive landscape is just tanked compared to years past. I mean, if you look at it, baseball today compared to 2019, I mean, it's like two different games, basically. I mean, that was just an offensive site season. And now you've got, we're consistently seeing 1-0, 2-1, 3-0 games. That's just become the norm this year.
And to me, like, we all know this is affecting fantasy baseball, and I understand, we need to get into that. But what's your thoughts on, like, look, if MLB did doctor the ball and they changed it, which is the heavy belief going around, do you think that this is what they ultimately wanted, or is it like, maybe we went a little too far?
I can't imagine this is what they want, right? It baffles me that they would take this, if this is how far they went with the ball. If they said, okay, well, maybe 2019 was the opposite end of the spectrum, let's pull it back a little bit. You got some more normalized numbers back in 2021. Why not just stick with that, right? You didn't get sort of what people are calling the rabbit ball that we had in 2019. People were dissecting that ball, looking at the components of it, and how far it could travel, just on just sort of a normal hit. They've just have gone overboard. I can't imagine, especially when you think about what baseball did and how they embraced the late 90s, early 2000s power surge and how that brought fans back to the game. I can't imagine this is what they're wanting.
So I ultimately agree with you. However, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here and just say, what if this is what they wanted? And here's the reason why. There's been all this talk about shortening the game, right? Speeding up the game, right? Or whatever it is. If you have more runs, more offense, that makes the game longer, right? So if you have 2-1 games, 3-1 games, 3-0 games consistently, then the games will be predominantly shorter. So I wonder if there is some, something to that.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see, of course, now this experimentation they're doing has gone to the highest levels of the minor leagues, the pitch clocks, the stay in the box, these types of things that MLB is trying to implement. Those things seem to be working. I saw some stats the other day that they're getting games that regularly clock in at 2 hours or just above 2 hours. So maybe they're doing this trying to bide their time until they implement some of these fast-paced mechanisms that they're trying in the minor leagues. But again, I just, with how many people are focused on Major League Baseball from a context of fantasy, context of gambling, I just, not that that's what they're concerned about, but I can't imagine that they want every game to be a 1-0 pitcher's duel.
You would think so. AJ, what's your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, to me, it's definitely worrisome because I could see the point of them wanting to slow the game down. So let's take the offense away and this and that. But people are going to see offense. I mean, that's the shift that's happened by them juicing the ball a few years back. And it's like, oh, crap. All right, we want to go and we want to see all these home runs and this and that. And, we talked about it before with no hitters and whatnot. That's an exciting game to watch, but you don't want to watch that every game you go to or every game that you put on a TV. I mean, it's going to get old, but I don't think offense will ever get old. It's exciting. It's adrenaline. It's we have a specific home run derby for the All-Star weekend specifically for this. So
I'm going to bet they don't use this ball at the home run derby.
Yeah,
God. You're gonna have like 4, 12. The winner's gonna have 12 total home runs.
The strike throwing derby doesn't get you excited about adding that event to the All-Star game. That's not what you want to see.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a line drive challenge.
Yeah. Who can take out the most kids in the outfield?
I was just thinking the same thing. That's too good. All right, so
to your point, you may have seen there was a tweet going around today that D. Strange Gordon, whatever his name is, his career OPS is higher than the average major league OPS this year. Right, so that's how bad things have gotten. In offense. And to the point of sort of how the game is flowing and how it's working, Ken Rosenthal did something today where he looked at there's actually more actionable plays, right? So not home runs, strikeouts, walks than there's been since 2016, I think. So there is more action happening in the games, which is what I think they do want. But I think it's had the opposite effect of, we were getting more balls in play, but we're doing it with a ball that's not doing what it used to do.
Yeah. So with that said, and so I know I mentioned this earlier, but like, do you think there is some credence to like, okay, maybe the ball just really is bad in colder weather, and maybe when it gets warmer, it will get better? Like, is there any thought in your mind that that's actually a true statement?
Yeah, I think there are two factors that are going to improve offense. Certainly the weather always helps, no matter what context you're playing in. Also the fact that we had these primarily expanded pitcher rosters through the first month of the season.
Right.
But now that you've sent down some of your worst relievers, maybe a starter who wasn't doing anything is bumped back to the end of the bullpen, I think we're going to see pitching tighten up a little bit, but it's still we're seeing these teams that have these. I mean, the end of their bullpens just seem to be god awful these days, and so I think the combination of what pitchers we have available, plus the fact that there's going to be warmer weather and the humidor should start to normalize these things a bit. I think you're going to see offense pick up somewhat.
Yeah, I certainly would hope so. I know we need it. My fantasy teams desperately need it. I've got guys that I relied on heavily for offense, and I'm not getting anything from that. And so, with that being said, who are and it's really the hitters that we're looking at here, right? Who are the hitters that are being affected the most by this? Like the type of hitters, I guess, if you want to name, like give examples, but like just a general type of hitter that's getting affected the most by this.
Yeah, you have to look primarily at guys, not to pull up a list, but guys who are heavy fly ball hitters. You saw until, for example, a 3 home run game that Anthony Rizzo had, that he was really struggling in Yankee Stadium until he broke out sort of with that game. And even in that game, he got some, a lot of feedback that these were sort of some cheap home runs, things that wouldn't have happened in other parks. But guys who are heavy fly ball hitters, we've seen obviously Joey Gallo struggle. We've seen a lot of guys who put the ball in play that way. Yeah, we've got a lot of guys who put the ball in play that way. I mean, there are guys who are high fly ball hitters like Franmil Reyes, who can't even get a bat on the ball these days, right? I mean, that's a whole other story. But I mean, the guys who make contact that way, I think, are going to be the ones that are impacted by this until things turn around somewhat.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely the power guys for me that seem to be having the most issue. And they're the ones that, I went after some cheap power and I'm getting, literal zeros out of it from like guys like Reyes, who I can't, I've got him in like a really deep league and I'm like, I'm not dropping him because I've just got to imagine the power is coming eventually. It's just, oh boy, it's been rough. So you spoke to the average thing. So like, obviously, the ball, you think of a dead ball, you think of, power, right? And so that's kind of what we were talking about. The average though, like why is the batting average so far down this year? I mean, guys are striking out at these ridiculous rates at this point. Like, where is that coming from? Is that because of the ball, or just changes in approach now because of the balls in the past? And or what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I do still think that you're seeing more guys shift towards a sort of 3 true outcomes approach. And so if you do that, and you're saying, okay, well, 2 of those outcomes are strikeout and walk, and a lot of guys gravitate towards those two ends. But then if the other outcome is home runs, and home runs have significantly dropped, and that's, of course, fly balls typically turned into outs. And so you're going to see batting average drop a lot in that regard. And I also think that some of these parks that used to play as tremendous hitter parks, just because of weather, because of ball, are not seeing hits fall as we've seen in the past. So it's just going to have a cascading effect until we know exactly what's happening with that ball and what the MLB is going to do about it.
Yeah, it's definitely a strange thing, and another thing. Obviously, you talked about the ballparks, changing with the humidor, but obviously, Camden Yards was a huge home run, hitter friendly park, and that's changed because of the dimensions of the field for big reason. Yeah, I mean, I still took my chances on a couple of O's in some drafts, and man, I'm paying the price big time for that. That's just not working out. I mean, we got guys like Zimmerman looking like real good pitchers right now. It's a shame Means got hurt. He'd be like almost Cy Young up there. He'd be crazy. But it's weird. I look at some of these fly balls. I was just curious. Like the fly ball percentages, right? So I'm looking at like the top guys here, and we've got Trout, Wisdom, and Tellez, and Christian Walker and Varsho as like the top fly ball hitters percentage wise as far as hits. And they've got good home run numbers, 6, 5, 7, 6, 5, right? Mm-hmm. You start dropping after those first like 5 or 6, though, you do get a bunch of guys with 1 home run, 0 home runs, 2 home runs, 1 home runs, and it's guys that are typically like pretty good home run guy. I mean, Trevor Story's got none, right? And he's a 50%, 51% home run hitter or fly ball hitter right now. So it is weird. And like, but look, it could be what you were saying earlier, right? Where like maybe those teams are getting a different ball than say, Atlanta right now, who's just not really hitting it out, that type of stuff.
And you have to think about, your Trouts and look at that list as well. Your Trouts and your J-Rams and your Bregmans, you look at these high fly ball guys. I mean, these are guys that are going to make solid contact and they're going to do well regardless of the ball that you have. But it's some of these other fly ball guys you see on this list, like Sal Perez. I mean, he's just fallen off a cliff in terms of average and slugging percentage.
He still hit 5 home runs though.
Still has 5 home runs, but he is top 10 in fly ball percentage. He's trying to hit a home run every time he's up there. Guys like Adam Duvall, guys like Matt Chapman, Bobby Dahlbeck, guys that have got 50% plus fly ball rates, that can't really rely on other tools to get on base when the fly balls aren't turning into long doubles or home runs.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think another thing to look at too is, with this effect of all these balls being in a humidor, is MLB regulating the humidor across MLB, or is it left up to the teams? If I have cigars in a humidor, I might want them at this level, and then if I take them out too early, they're going to go stale. So the balls could have issues. I mean, I don't know if there's been a standard set across, and maybe that's asking too much, or it's looking way too deep into this, but it's going to affect it. If all these teams have a humidor set at the exact same level and they have to take the balls out an hour before game time, make that known, make it a consistent thing throughout, and then see how everything affects it. Obviously, there's going to be other factors in the ballpark that would affect, throughout, but at least that way you have more consistent data to go off of.
And I think maybe it was Sarah who before the season was talking about the Oakland Athletics, who before the season teams were told keep balls in a climate controlled area at this temperature. And he said he knew sort of some inside information, and Oakland just didn't do that. Nothing happened to them. They didn't have the right facility to be able to do it. So
what's the consequence if you don't follow these guidelines too? Or
nothing really.
We forgot, our ball guy got COVID, and Joe Schmo next in line didn't realize what we were doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, but moving on to the pitching side of it. I mean, is this basically how are you seeing your threshold for streamable pitchers? Is it lower, higher?
Yeah. So this is the great side of things that's not really being considered is, for this incredible action, there's certainly an opposite reaction, right? That's happening on the pitching side of things. And you've got your teams, like we talked about, the Reds and the A's who can't get anybody out. But on average, you are seeing teams who have, I would say, more streamable options. I mean, forget the Eric Lauer guys that are striking out a dozen batters a game now for some reason. There are teams now that are throwing out pitchers that you would be much more likely to use than an environment 3 years ago. There are names. We've even recommended some on our site, Daniel Lynch and others who you really think twice about whether you're going to use these guys in sort of marginal matchups, but now you really have to consider them, and there's a lot more streaming options available to your daily fantasy players and the guys that are going to rotate out pitchers every week.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Paddock, right? I mean, like, he's become a useful pitcher, which is just hilarious. I mean, he was like dead to the fantasy world for 2 years now, and now he's rostered in a lot of places. I mean, you mentioned Eric Lauer, who we'll get to later, but there's a tons of like just random dudes. We're even seeing guys in Colorado like maybe you like it's how crazy is that? You're like, all right. I mean,
I think that's actually the ultimate ploy here is that the MLB is really working on turning people who pitch in Colorado into good pitchers, and then come summer they're just gonna change this ball around and then go back to Colorado, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh man,
yeah." You might have gotten away with Austin Gomber yesterday against the Nationals. You might have enjoyed that.
Yeah, that is interesting. Like because I think was it last year that they messed with the ball halfway through the year.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so I mean, God, what if they do that again? Just flip the script on everybody. I mean, like, just leave it alone. Like, let us predict something for once. Like, it's baseball. Go away. Anyway, man. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the ultimate strategy change for me is that we're just. I'm sticking with like the big guns that I drafted, but some of like these later guys, I'm quickly dropping for just anybody who's hot at this point.
Yeah.
Like anybody who can get a bat on a ball, like I want them on my team because, I don't think home runs are gonna be anything great this year. So that's not a stat I'm gonna chase right now from really anybody. But like you want a guy who can just get bat on ball, get on base, score some runs. Bat guys in, and then like I'm streaming guys left and right. I'm just matchups are going to be big, but I have 100% lowered my threshold for streamable pitchers at this point, and I'm just willing to kind of go after anybody.
It's almost hard to predict like the average, like it and streaming these guys or the matchups. Sorry, not average. That it's like, well, okay, this guy's had a couple of good games. Dylan Bundy, you throw him in there, and then he gets waxed, and you're like,
yeah,
okay, great. And I didn't even realize it. Like I set my lineup yesterday early because of the earlier games, and then didn't look at it again until today, and then it's like, wait, what the hell? What just happened? How is this even a thing? So, yeah, I think guys like that, you're going to see more streaming. And I've gone out and done it. But it's hard to figure out who to cut, too, because you have some of these bigger name players, and you're like, you got to turn it around. Like, come on, you can't have a below 200 average forever. Like, come on.
You sure about that?
Well, I was for a couple of weeks, and now I'm like, do I need to cut bait with Nelson Cruz?
Right.
When the league
you don't think you're going to drop.
Average is 232. If you got a 190, I think I'm okay still right now. I need a budget. Like, how sad is that right now? That's just totally crazy. But anyway,
I think in the piece that I wrote, I used Mookie Betts as the example. At the time, he was slashing 231, 348, 372, and the average was about in line with the league average. But his OBP and slugging, they look crappy, but they were all about 20% above league average.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, well,
he's picked it up.
Manage expectations.
Guy's still a stud. All right.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Trevor Story to remember how to play baseball again. All right, well, let's jump into our next topic here. And, speaking of guys that have, they started out bad and they're starting to pick things up like Mookie Betts. I don't think anybody was really, truly worried about him. But some interesting players that we have noticed that have either picked things up so their stock is rising or have kind of slowed down a little bit so their stock is falling. We'll look into a little bit as to, like, maybe why this is, and a little bit as to like which do we see is going to continue the rest of the season. And with that said, I'm actually gonna start. I'm cheating with this guy because he didn't have a first. Well, I say first half of the season, first 2 weeks, and then second 2 weeks is really what it is. But Taylor Ward, actually he didn't start playing until April 16th. Yeah. But this guy is just crushing baseballs right now. Yeah. So I know, like, obviously his stock is going up, but he didn't really fit into what I was really trying to do here, first half or second half. But he is playing so well and kind of came out of nowhere. He was so worth talking about, in my opinion. And so I just want to get your take on Taylor Ward and just what you expect from him the rest of the season. Like, obviously, I think the pace he's on now is obviously not going to continue. But, I mean, is he somebody that, you think players, fantasy managers can rely on the rest of the year as a very viable, productive player?
Yeah, I do. And I'll tell you why. This production, like you said, won't be sustainable at this level, but it correlates directly to when Madden moved him into the leadoff spot 9 games ago. I mean, since that time, he is, as you said, just literally been on fire. 333 average, 778 slugging percentage from the leadoff spot. Now, what you see is just a very simple analysis of, well, you got a guy named Taylor Ward hitting right in front of Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. Well, we're not going to pitch around Taylor Ward, so let's do what we can with him before we get to the big guys. Well, he's just taking advantage of that. His walk rate is up. He's cut his strikeouts a bit. He's cut his reach rate a bit. Ward is one of these guys, like many that we've seen, kind of that are performing at an elite level, that have a really high batting average on balls in play through the first month. That'll drop, so it'll cause the total production to drop a little bit. But I do see him, as long as he sticks in that leadoff spot, as being someone that can contribute all year long.
Yeah. So surprisingly, a trade just went down for him in my league. He was picked up late April. So obviously he was riding his hot streak. Guy picks him up and then dumped him and Frankie Montas for Yordan Alvarez.
Whoa.
Wow.
And,
Cha-ching. Damn. I picked him up in our fantasy six-pack league. Who's got Alvarez? I'll make that deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Well, I think I would definitely have Alvarez more, but the fact that the guy that traded Alvarez kind of got screwed in the draft. So he needed pitching. And he's got a good amount of offense. So, it just depends on what Montas is going to do the rest of the year. I would have maybe tried to get somebody a little higher up than that and better known quantity, especially for Alvarez. But I mean, hell, in this league, Taylor Ward is the number 1 outfielder. So
I mean, he's been incredible. I mean,
okay.
I've been sort of asleep behind the wheel for most of the season when it comes to like running the fantasy leagues that I'm in, and I literally I logged onto our fantasy six-pack league. Of course, there's some friends and stuff in that league too, but I just remember being like, man, I gotta go pick up somebody. I looked and I was like, wait. Ward's out there. This was like April 30th, and I was like, okay, click. That was an easy add and drop. I don't even remember who I dropped. It
didn't matter.
Yeah,
it didn't matter. I was like, yes, and then I literally think he hit a grand slam that night. I was like, yeah, all right.
We should also say there are guys like Yordan who don't give a crap what kind of ball are being used right now.
Oh yeah,
yeah, like Aaron Judge. He's just like, I'm strong.
Yeah.
Good luck finding a ball I can't hit out of a ballpark. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So yeah, I don't know. I like Ward. I mean, I do think things are gonna slow down for him big time, and he really just gotta hope, right, that Trout and Rendon and Ohtani, all these guys around him can stay healthy, because once they start falling off, so is everybody else. Ward's not gonna be able to.
It's not going to be able to
get the
maintain
pitches
it all,
he's getting when he doesn't have Trout hitting behind him in the lineup. That's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So next hitter we got here is Willy Adames. I think I always screw his name up, I feel like, but I mean, he's definitely up right now. I mean, what's your take on him?
Yeah, last 2 weeks, my gosh, just absolutely killing it. He's a guy who's shifted more this season to be one of these fly ball hitters, and he's been benefiting from park that he hits in, right? So the Milwaukee Stadium, I forget what they renamed it, but it's still just a massive hitter's park especially for fly balls and for home runs. And he's also sort of a rising tide all boats situation where Yelich has really picked it up. Rowdy has gone off the past few days, right? So he's benefiting from the lineup around him really exceeding expectations as well. But yeah, I mean, this is a guy who's on a high over the past 2 weeks that won't be sustainable. But we saw some of this last year when he came over from Tampa Bay. As long as sort of keeps this on base percentage up, which is something that has always struggled with, I see him still being a very useful asset.
Joe, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Adames was a guy who, if you missed out on a bunch of those early shortstops, he was a guy who I was super interested in. But he started off ice cold and was like, well, maybe I was lucky I didn't get him anywhere. But he's really picked things up. I mean, guy hit 25 last year, 25 home runs. His batting average was 262. Of course, batting average has dropped this year, but I don't think anybody really pays attention to batting average anymore at this point. Like, I mean, he's whatever. Like, these guys just don't
262 is like Stan Musial this year.
I mean, but,
seriously.
Yeah, right. He's batting 223
Oh,
right
God.
now, but I mean, 6 bombs. I mean, I could easily see him finishing with over 20 home runs this year, and as a shortstop, he probably got in round 15.
Yeah.
You're loving that, especially in a year where power and stuff is just sort of good luck guessing what it is. But next up here is a guy who was going super early in drafts and started off really, really bad. Kyle Tucker just couldn't get it going. I mean, through the first 12 games for him, I mean, he had 2 home runs, 3 runs, 4 RBI, and only 1 stolen base. The shocking thing was, and we talked about it in the very first show, was he wasn't the leadoff guy. He was batting, 6th or maybe even 7th at times.
He bats 6th, yeah.
And I think he still is, but I still don't really understand that. But the last couple of weeks, he's picked things up. 2 home runs, but then 5 runs, 11 RBI, 3 stolen bases. The batting average over these last couple of weeks has climbed all the way up to 383. For the 2-week span. The slugging is at 596. Like it's all starting to click again for him. He's turning into the player that I think a lot of people thought they were getting in the first round. But is there any worry with you that because of the ball or whatever that maybe we see more 2-week spurts that we got from him in the first 2 weeks where it's just going to be maybe he doesn't return first round value?
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about I'm not concerned at all actually about Tucker. Living in Houston, follow that team pretty.
I didn't notice this, but we got 2 more homers from Willy today.
Yeah.
Thanks, Connor.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Tell us RBI yesterday. Crazy offense from Milwaukee right now.
Yeah, that guy won you your week if you.
Yes.
But yeah, following Astros pretty closely. So to the point about the batting slot, Dusty Baker talked about this last year. He, for some reason, loves this sort of what he calls second, third hitter, right? So he's got his top 3, and then he's got these other great top 3 hitters where he puts Tucker at the end of those. So he feels like he's got sort of back-to-back top 3s. So that's why he keeps slotting him there and not higher in the order. Whatever. It's going to be the way it is for the rest of the year probably. But we saw Tucker sort of play this game last year. He was abysmal in April, and then there was a case to be made that from May to the end of the season, he was the best hitter in the league. He is a pure line drive power hitter, so not as much reliant on fly balls, and he also, of course, does things with his legs. So I have a lot less concern about a guy like that than I do just like I said, a 52% fly ball guy. Yeah,
I mean, I like Tucker a lot. I took him, if I had a back end of the first round pick, I was taking him everywhere. So I'm loving it, especially now that he's starting to run again. The 3 steals is glorious right now. That's what I was really hoping to get from him. You knew he had a good bat, but it was just a matter of time. So
So next, last hitter we have here is Dansby Swanson. I mean, he's like the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde, I feel like, because just looking at my points league, obviously it's different per everything, but on the season he's got Gronkowski 69 total points, and over the last 15 he has 54.5 points. So I mean, okay,
you look at his stats the first 2 weeks. He was
my God, it was like
43, no home runs, 3
this
runs,
sucks.
2
This
RBIs.
guy stinks.
He was striking out at a 41.5%
Oh.
clip in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, that has dropped to 29.
Yeah.
Still not great, but like that is a massive difference, and he's walking 4 times as much or twice as much as he was before too. It's like,
yeah,
what's
because he's
happening?
I mean, he's basically had 21 strikeouts in the first 2 weeks, and he's down to 15. So, okay, all right.
Yeah,
Good job.
Yeah, he did this last year as well. Swanson just has these white hot sort of spurts where he goes on for a couple of weeks, and then he'll revert back to an average player. I went and looked at his past 10 games or so. They've been against the Cubs, Rangers, and Marlins, so not sort of the paragon of elite pitching that he'll come across. He's going to first certainly face some tougher divisional matchups when he starts playing the Mets and the Phillies every other series. That's a guy, if you're looking at sort of what's happened the past couple weeks compared to his first 2. I would say he's not really either of those guys, but I would lean more towards this current streak is going to come to an end pretty soon. He's going to come crashing down to earth.
Yeah,
I tend to agree. I mean, I don't think he's nearly as bad as he was to start the season. But there was a lot of people that were like, "Oh, Dansby Swanson sucks. Like he'll never repeat last year." Blah blah blah. Like, I mean, I was at a couple of best ball drafts on RT Sports, and he was going in the last round. I was like, what? That was shocking. And I was like, at this point, I had my shortstop, sealed up, and so I didn't take him, but somebody finally grabbed him just because, and it just seemed crazy for a guy who hit as well as he did last year, that he just was like being abandoned.
Yeah.
That seems kind of odd to me, but it is what it is. So let's switch over to some pitching, and we got a lot here, so we'll try to rip through these as fast as possible here. But the first pitcher here, and we've talked about him quite a bit on the show, and like, you talk about Jekyll and Hyde. Like, I literally don't know what to do with this guy. Gerritt Cole. The first 3 starts of his season were some of the worst you could possibly imagine for a first round, for the first overall pitcher being taken, right? I mean, his ERA was sitting at 6.35. The strikeouts were still there, but not at the pace that we usually get from him. I mean, he had that one start where he went like 1 2/3 inning and let up like 6 runs or whatever crazy number that was, and got pulled.
Don't remind me.
And then people are just bailing on him, just jumping ship, trading him for whatever. And I sort of get it, because if you had gone back even further with him, right, and you went to back when MLB started, locking down on the sticky stuff, right, his numbers were not good. And then, of course, he comes out and it's just like, oh, just kidding, guys. I'm actually still good. Got his K rate back up a little, not quite to the years past before, but in 2 starts since then, he's gone 12 2/3. He's allowed a whopping 0 runs. Like, he's just dealing. What are we going to get from Cole this year? Like, what do you think?
Well, if you go back and look at preseason, Cole, by all of the odds makers, all the books, was the AL favorite to win Cy Young, right? And he was that for a reason. We know that he's going to have an elite strikeout rate. We know that because of the plays for, he is going to rack up wins. We had a good sense that the Yankees were going to be a very good team this year, which is certainly turning out to be the case.
Yes.
again, a player that I've followed since his early days in Pittsburgh, and he has these games where you'll see that at the end of the year it's going to be a 3.1 ERA, it's going to be 220 strikeouts, but he's going to have 5 games where he gives up 5 or more earned runs. That's just his MO. It's especially playing in a park like Yankee Stadium. If he comes up against a lefty heavy power lineup, he may have these games where it might blow up the ratios for a bit, but he's struggling with walks this year, close to 4 or 9 innings, but that's something he's typically been able to get under control. So I'm still not considering him anything other than about a first or second rounder to be able to do this all over again.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, what are his normal walk numbers over the last couple of weeks? They were like it's around 2 per 9.
Yeah, which is about his career number.
Yeah, so his career numbers are around right that. So it seems like he's figured something back out, or I don't know, maybe he's figured out some clear sticky stuff that he could use. Who knows? Whatever works, man. I drafted him in at least one league. So I'm happy he's figuring it out in that league. The other ones, I don't care. So, all right, man.
All right. So next guy we got here, Mr. Freddy Peralta.
Fastball Freddy.
I mean, he was coming into the season. He was a pretty hot commodity, pretty big name. A lot of fandom coming after him. And he did not really reward that with his first few starts. I mean, he's had 2 good starts, and then after that, his last start yesterday was okay. 7 Ks, 98 pitches against the Reds, and they won 18-4, which we've already been talking about. So he had plenty of run support in that game, not so much in the all of his other games. So, which version of Freddie are you believing in?
Yeah, so this is a guy I really cannot figure out this year. The strikeouts are up around 12 per game, not 12 per game, 12 per 9 again. The fly balls are way down, the ground balls are way up. So you would think with that for level of skill that you'd see a better ERA. And it's true that the estimators sort of put him at around a 3 ERA as opposed to the 5 he has now. But really it's walks again. He just has had a hard time controlling that. He's up around 4 again for the season. But he's a guy who's about 80 points above league average in BABIP as well. And so as that self-corrects, we should see a little bit of reduction in terms of the runs he's allowing. But the strikeouts are there. And then in terms of the batted ball profile, I like what I'm seeing from him. So if he can just get a little bit more luck, I think this is a guy to hold on to.
Yeah. I mean, two of his games he's only got 1 quality start on the season so far, and that was against Pittsburgh. So again, not a high power offense. He was close against Philly in a loss. And then yesterday, even with all of that run support, they pulled him with 98 pitches, which I can understand that. But he was hovering around 89 in the Phillies game. Maybe could have gone, another inning. But they've been ramping up his pitch count along with most of the pitchers that we're seeing.
Yeah, that's pretty normal. I think the big thing for him is just the walks. He's got to keep the walks down. If he can do that, he's going to be a monster. Like he'll be what he was last year. But those first few starts for him, he was at like 7, almost 8 walks a game, or per 9. You're not going to do very well, no matter who you are, if you're walking that many batters. So I still like him, but it was kind of scary there for a couple of weeks. So next guy up, man, and Mr. Zack Wheeler. The first couple of starts for him weren't looking too great. This was a guy who, just a couple of years ago, wasn't really thought of as a top pitcher, and then just sort of really just figure something out. But the first couple of starts, you're like, oh no, like maybe he's crashing back down to earth, and then these last couple of starts, the last 3 starts, he's really turned things back around. So again, just kind of what are your thoughts on Zack Wheeler moving forward the rest of the year? Are we just confident as ever with him, like we were coming into the season?
Yeah, I still think that this is still a Cy Young caliber pitcher like we saw last year. A little bit unlucky. Like Peralta has been a little bit of an issue with walks compared to career numbers. Been somewhat lucky with the home run so far this year, but he's still striking guys out. He's still allowing it over 40% ground balls. It's interesting, going to be an interesting case study this year for Wheeler. People were talking preseason about how bad the Phillies defense might be with guys like Schwarber and Castellanos out there. Does it kind of play this big of an impact on his production? I don't, Bohm. I don't think it'll play that big of a role, but it's certainly something to watch.
That's for sure.
We may not get a 2.7 ERA again, but I don't think we're going to end up in the 4.5 range either.
Yeah, I agree. I think people panicked a little much, especially after that Miami blow up game where he allowed 7 and didn't help himself when he came back and let up 4 the very next game, but he's been pretty locked down the last couple of games. So,
and there was a lot of heat going out today from him getting pulled yesterday. I mean, the Philly Sports Talk Radio just hates Joe Girardi at this point, and really has throughout the whole season, and for multiple instances, which I would agree with, but I kind of side with Girardi a little bit more on yesterday. He pulled him. I want to say he had like 78 or 90,
pitches.
78 pitches, but he was getting ready to face the lineup through for the 3rd time, so they pulled him, and then ultimately they ended up losing the game. In 10 innings. So that's not necessarily on Wheeler. I think that's just a breakdown late in the game. But he was cruising, so
he was.
If he's supposed to be your ace,
too, man, you got to let him roll.
If he's supposed to be your ace in a home game, okay, it is the 3rd time through the lineup. Fine. Switch the freaking pitch count. Or pitch selection up a little bit more for this guy who's already seen him twice. He could have thrown him maybe 1 pitch and it could have been a pop out, or a ground out or something. So, I guess whatever data he had, Girardi was good enough. But moving into the next guy here, the former, I guess, quote unquote ace from Philly is Aaron Nola. I pitched another gem tonight. Quality start, 7 innings. Only gave up 3 hits. Had 7 Ks.
Better for him.
And he went 101 pitches with 71 of them strikes. Former Met Yuri's Familia came in and
games from him, really
set 3 down with a K, and then the wheels fell off. Yeah, when I went out to pick up dinner, I was listening to the game a little bit and was like, oh, okay, they're up 7-1. I was like, oh, nice. All right, well, suck it, Mets. I don't know. I digress, though. So, Nola, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, Nola was sort of the poster boy for how unlucky he was last year in terms of what his final numbers look like. He just looks back to ace form for me tonight. Is just further proof of that. He's back to 11 strikeouts. He's got a career high ground ball rate right now. He just looks, frankly, he and Wheeler both look just dynamic right now, and I think these guys both look like aces. That it's a tough team to face, particularly as we get towards the postseason. But this was against the Mets. This was just a great indicator of yes, he can still be truly dominant with strikeouts and ground balls every single game.
Yeah, I mean, it's another bullpen issue. And not, Corey Knebel, however you pronounce it, is, he took the loss and the blown save, I guess, for giving up 3 runs, but Norwood ahead of him gave up 4. in a third of an inning. So, when the wheels fall off that badly in front of you, it's kind of a hard luck loss. I mean, giving up 3 more runs doesn't help your cause, but I don't know. Like, for whatever reason, this team just has not put it together yet. And, there was a lot of talk about the defense being an issue. And when was the last time we heard defense wins World Series? Never. Yeah, exactly. Defense wins championships in football. Has nothing to do, not nothing, but minimal to do with baseball.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
ran over.
The Phillies have an issue with the bullpen. They've got to address it. Yeah.
All right, so last two guys here. I'm just gonna do both of them here. So we already talked about Eric Lauer. I kind of want to get your quick thoughts on just. I mean, he started off, okay. It wasn't bad. It was just sort of middle of the road. Like, okay, it's Eric Lauer. The last few starts, like, he has a K per 9 rate of 16.6. This is the guy who his average is 8.7 per 9. I mean, what? Okay.
Putting it
so
together.
what's going on there? And then Cole Irvin, and I know he's injured right now. I don't know the extent of it. I just know I saw him, have the red little dot next to his name. But I mean, he's a guy who had a pretty successful start to last season. Sort of fell off down the stretch, but he's not a high strikeout guy. I don't think he's ever going to be. But seems like he just allows a lot of weak contact and things like that, and so that helps. Is he somebody who can be, we talked about the lowering the threshold for streamable pitchers at this point, but is he somebody that you could just like plug in every week and just be like, all right, I mean, he'll keep my ratios down, but he's not going to help me in strikeouts. So start with Lauer real quick and talk about the bump in strikeouts, and just, is this even close to maintainable for him?
I don't see him as a 12 strikeouts per game pitcher, but he is one of these guys. There are quite a few of them this year who changed up his pitch mix. He basically eliminated his changeup. His changeup is gone from his arsenal now, and that was the pitch that induced the fewest swinging strikes for him. And so now he's focusing, really, slider curveball, because his fastball is only throwing 36% of the time. I mean, we're seeing a decline in fastballs, but that's just almost an anomaly in and of itself. So his breaking pitches get a lot of swings and misses. So I think that, yes, we're going to see a higher strikeout rate than we have seen in his years past. Not anything 13, 14 Ks.
No.
That, but
hitters are going to catch up to that eventually. Yeah. But it's it's working right now. And
but if you drafted this guy in the 18th, 20th round,
another guy I snatched up in our fantasy 6-pack league.
Just take it to the bank.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I haven't paid it much attention. So after the first week when I almost lost 0-10, I was like, oh.
You only lost like.
And to your point about
I know. Well, no, I've been decent the past 2 weeks.
Decent, yeah. Anyway, and then Cole Irvin.
All right.
On Irvin, you're exactly right. Pitch to contact, lots of ground balls. Certainly one whose stock elevates because of the threshold being lowered in terms of what you're looking for in pitchers this year. Not going to get you a lot of strikeouts, not going to get you a lot of wins, but if you just need a streamer against average to below average offense, you could do a lot worse.
Absolutely. All right, let's jump into some guys who their stock is falling right now. They might have had a little bit of a hot start, and now things are just going in the opposite direction. And start off here, Seiya Suzuki. I mean, just lit the world on fire the first couple of weeks, man. It was awesome to see. It was 4 home runs, 9 runs, 11 RBI. Was walking a lot, wasn't striking out a lot. Like, everything was working for this guy. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and yikes. No home runs, just 4 runs RBI each. Now he's not walking. The strikeouts are up. I mean, is it just a matter of MLB pitchers have figured him out that quickly, or is this just he's just in a cold streak?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. Certainly, pitchers, when they sort of start to see on film what it does to make him swing and miss, which is very rare, or had been very rare, they're going to start to try to take advantage of those things. I love this guy as a player, so I've really been digging into him as to what's caused this cold streak. And the thing that I found that shocked me the most was when Suzuki swings at the first pitch, he hits 364 with a 727 slugging percentage. Those numbers drop about in half when he takes the first pitch. So he's trying to be and that's what he's done a lot these past couple of weeks. He's trying to sort of see the pitches, sort of feel the pitcher out, and they're really taking advantage of that, getting behind 0-1 in a lot of counts. They're really taking advantage of him when they do that. If he's just more aggressive, he tends to do better.
That's interesting because you would think if you're taking the first pitch, unless it's strike, like your walk rate would be way higher than 2.
Yeah.
But it's not. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. He wasn't really somebody I was going after in drafts. I looked really dumb the first couple of weeks. Now I look really, really smart. So maybe I'll go play victory lap on Twitter, and because I know there's like big talk about that right now. Just be controversial.
Yeah.
Probably. That sounds like right up your alley. So,
not really, but okay.
Yeah,
just stay out of that crap.
Suzuki was detrimental to me now. Next guy we got here is Lindor. I mean, he had a homer tonight, and okay, so maybe he's back up, but not really. I mean, he started off pretty well. In April was good to him.
Like Lindor of old, man.
I have 4 homers, 14 RBIs, 11 walks. 282 average. So that's not too bad. And then you fast forward into May and say 0.056 average, 190 on base percentage, and back to the 0.056 per slugging. Not sure how the hell you can do that with both of those numbers, but that's impressive. So I'll give him that. 1 RBI, been hit twice, struck out 5 times in 18 at bats.
Let's notorious for being hit this year. I have no idea what's going on.
So, I mean, at least there's 3 runs. Hooray! What are we doing with Lindor here?
Yeah, I think the sample size on just look at May. It's extremely small to try to extrapolate too much.
But even just the last 2 weeks hasn't been good for him.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks haven't. Yeah, certainly have not been great. He has faced some tough pitching. I mean, even these past 2 games, for example, Anderson and Nola just except for the 1 home run, he's just really been struggling against these guys. But Lindor was this one, this shortstop who disappointed everybody last year. I think that if you told me to pick between the April Lindor, who hit almost 300 and almost 500 slugging percentage, and the 056 Lindor of May, I think I would lean more towards the April version. There were there were all these signs last year of huge contract, new team. He had talked about how he felt uncomfortable. I think this course corrects a little bit and he gets back on track more to the player we're used to.
Yeah. I tend to agree. I mean, I don't think he's – I never thought he was as bad as he was last season, and I don't think he's as bad as he has been playing the last couple of weeks. But I don't think we're going to ever see the almost MVP level Lindor that we were seeing, back in Cleveland. Like, we're just not going to get that guy again. So, maybe he was I'll be honest, like, after those first couple of weeks, he might have been a gigantic, huge sell high candidate for me. Because I don't think, people might have been like, "Oh, he's back." Nope.
Yeah.
Sure. Here, take
that back. Yeah.
Fine, I'll take you your Dan Alvarez.
So the next guy I want to talk about, and maybe not the sexiest name, super fantasy relevant, but he got off to a fun start. Good story, and I mean, we gotta talk about him, right? It's a fantasy six-pack hour. Seth Beer. Guy was. People didn't really. People in dynasty leagues knew who this guy was. People in redraft leagues really didn't know who this guy was.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. Comes out the first couple of weeks, not lighting the world on fire, but he was playing well. Good, really good batting average. Hit a bomb opening day, I believe.
Yeah.
Hasn't done much since that. It didn't hit anything since then, but the last couple of weeks really just. Let's be honest, nothing. He's not even really making contact with the ball. So, if you picked him up, we can probably just keep this one really short. I just kind of did this one for the name, but if you had picked him up, it's time to be like, bye. Right.
It looks like he doesn't have a hit since April 22nd, so that's a problem. I think that walk-off homer on opening day is going to be the highlight of his season. This is a good or great minor league hitter. Yet to be seen whether or not he can make contact on a consistent basis.
How was he even still in the lineup?
I don't know. Well, he had 2 days off before yesterday, and he's been playing about every other day since end of April.
That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just saw that one and thought it'd be fun to mention him just for the name. You got to do it. We always got to get some Seth Beer in there.
Right,
absolutely. So another one is Jeremy Pena. He was the next man up here for Houston once Correa left, and he started off looking like a bona fide all-star, and Correa who, and not so much. Has he hit this rookie wall, if you will, or
already?
Yeah. 3 weeks, 4 weeks in.
Yeah, well, first of all, guys, you're really hitting me here. I'm not going to tolerate any Jeremy Pena slander, right? This is my guy. Okay? So, number one, we don't care about Carlos Correa anymore. Jeremy Pena is the future.
He's going. All right, he's out.
Yeah, homer tonight. He's going to be better than Correa. No, and what it comes down to is, I think Pena has hit in maybe every spot 1 through 8 so far in the lineup this year. Right, he's kind of being jerked around. Somebody did an interview with him. I forgot who it was, but he basically said, I'm trying to do everything right and make sure I'm not making mistakes. And they were talking about in the context of he wasn't stealing, he wasn't drawing a lot of walks. And so it seems to be that, this is a rookie. He's pressing. He's got the job from day one. I think if he could just settle down a little bit, this is a guy who's got all 5 tools, and he can be excellent if he'll just settle down a little bit. But I'm very high on the sort of future of Pena. There'll be some ups and downs certainly as a rookie, but I'm very high on his future.
Well, so for this year, I took a chance on him in a couple of leagues super late, and I know lots of people did, especially as the helium started growing at the end of spring with him. But, what do you do with him if you're still hanging on to him? In a standard 12-team league, are you just waiting to see if he kind of gets out of this funk and can get back to his early season production, or are we just going, he's a rookie, just pass and go find the next hot bat right now?
Yeah, I will say, being one of his biggest fans, he's on a lot of my teams, and what I'm doing is every 15-team league that I have him in, he is in the lineup every day.
Well,
I just feel like in that format, you got to play. On my 10 and 12-team leagues, he is probably my first bat right now on the bench, playing when a guy gets hurt, playing when I need to middle infielder, a utility spot. You're going to get some games like tonight where he gets on base a couple times, including a home run. He's got that type of power. He stole his first base the other day. So in shallower leagues, he's probably my first bench bat. But yeah, in deeper ones, he's locked in probably for the season.
I totally agree with you there, man. I haven't. He has absolutely been the first one. Like, oh, I got a full lineup. Everybody's playing.
Yeah.
Pena, you take a seat.
Yeah.
At least
and
right now.
And with everybody healthy, they're batting him 7th or 8th again. So yeah, that certainly doesn't help his case.
Yeah,
no, definitely not. So, all right. Next up is Mr. Alex Verdugo. I mean, I loved how the fact that Mookie Betts was kind of have a struggle the first couple weeks, and I heard a lot of, at least I'm hoping they're jokes on Twitter, like, oh, the Red Sox are going to forget about Betts because Verdugo's just blazing hot right now. Well, yeah, not so fast, my friends.
This is
Verdugo.
Alex Verdugo we're talking about.
Yeah, Alex Verdugo is I downloaded data from Fangraphs, and it's like anybody who had more than 30 plate appearances in the first 2 weeks, and then the second 2 weeks, same thing.
Yeah.
Ranked it by offensive WAR. Alex Verdugo right now has the lowest offensive WAR of any player.
Nice.
The last 2 weeks. 0 home runs, 1 run, 5 RBI. He's striking, like, it's weird. He doesn't strike out and he doesn't walk. Like, that's great. But his average is 146 and he doesn't steal. So there's just, he's doing nothing for you.
He's doing nothing. Yeah. That's the best.
Literally just somebody who you see on like a Thursday when it's like half the league's not playing. It's like, oh wait, he's in a game. Throw him in. All right, I can fill my lineup out with. Oh wait, it's Verdugo. Damn it.
Yeah.
And he still does nothing.
I had this misguided perception that Verdugo was this sort of on baseline drive guy. He's hitting. I mean, every year he's hitting 50% ground balls. I mean, he can't be successful, particularly at the top of the lineup like that. And you're right. He does not excel in any one area enough to say, oh, he should get a spot in my lineup. Even in a deep league right now, he is just. I mean, that top of the Red Sox lineup with Story and Verdugo is just it's a wreck, and they've got to do something about that.
Yeah, I always liked Verdugo's. I do think Verdugo's better than what he's playing right now. That's just it's just like really, really bad cold streak for him. But I mean, I do like his talent. I think he's fine. I don't think I'd go crazy and like drop him right now. I think you're just gonna have to sit through this cold streak. I mean, players have it. It's just, we just gotta point them out when it's this early and they are this eye popping bad. So next
Speaking
up,
of
the one right
Merrifield.
above Verdugo, by the way, in lowest offensive WAR, AJ. You got the floor.
That would be Mr. Marcell Ozuna.
After a good first 2 weeks.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know.
It's like the
I don't even
opposite
know
of
what to say.
Verdugo. Instead of
It is.
1 run and 5 RBI, it's 4 runs and 1 RBI. Still a terrible batting average and nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you put the two together and you have still a pretty shitty player.
Yes.
Overall.
I mean, he had 4 bombs in the first 2 weeks, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's back."
Dude, I just picked up Marcell Verdugo. I'm so excited.
Fantasy, sometimes you just got to be like, you know what? I'm just gonna be like, yeah, he's in my lineup. I don't like it, but yeah, he's gonna win me some money, But
No, he's not.
now he's not. I mean, what do we think Ozuna's gonna be the rest of the season, man?
So looking past the fact that he had to sit out a year, you're looking at a guy who I'm trying to find some data right now on his, because this is a big fly ball hitter, sort of what the impact is on his fly balls this season compared to previous seasons. It may take me a bit to dig it up here, but it just looks like he's struggling with a couple of things. He's he's hitting fly balls. They're not, except for those 4 in the very early season, they're not clearing the fences for home runs.
Yeah. Home run to fly
He's
ball ratio is down to 11.
Yeah, he's really chasing the ball outside the zone right now. I mean, the strikeout rate doesn't necessarily show it because he's not striking out much and also not walking much, but he's really chasing pitches right now. And I think that, there's a sense of, we don't know much about sort of the psychological side of these types of things, but he's got to be thinking, I got to come in and make up for lost time, as it were. And I just can't help but think he's got to be, one of these fly ball guys that's impacted by what's happening in offense right now.
The other thing I look at, and you saw this at the beginning of last year, right, with him, is that his hard hit rate is plummeting. It was Baseball Savant right now. His hard hit percentage was upwards of like 54 and close to 50. Now it's down to 40. And 47% right now. So it's been dropping, and so he's really got to get those barrels back up if I think he's going to be able to get the power consistently back like he once had. So again, I think he's just another one of those players where I think you're just gonna have to kind of wait it out with him a little bit and just hope he can return. Just because there's so many who are you picking up right now? To be perfectly honest, there's not a whole lot better out there that's going to help you over an Ozuna who's just cold right now. It's just unfortunate. But on the pitcher side, a guy who, man, I feel like he does this every year. Kyle Gibson had a great first 3 starts of the year. And then now he's back to being Kyle Gibson. It's just, is he a guy, with the lower threshold for streamable pitchers?
Yeah.
Is he somebody who you only want to use in the juiciest of matchups, or are you willing to kind of bump him up into the middle tier matchup range because of the ball?
I would say he is one of the most matchup dependent pitchers that I can think of. When he's getting the Pirates, or right now this version of the Reds, or some of these other really middling National League teams, I'm going to consider streaming him. He's got a career high 23% strikeout rate. That's still below league average, but it's for him it's astounding. So it's this guy who he does do this every year. He analyzes for a few starts. You think you got something there, but he's just not an overpowering pitcher. So unless it's a best matchup, I'm going to sort of leave him.
That first start against Oakland, when he had 10 strikeouts, is really carrying his entire season. I'll be perfectly honest. Oakland sort of turned it around. We all thought they were going to be just a cakewalk, and they've been pretty good, shockingly, with nobody on that roster. But I don't really care much about Gibson, but a pitcher that I think a lot more people are going to care about. AJ.
That would be Sean Manaea. Again, it's another guy that, at least for me, was somebody I've always kind of had these higher expectations of. And, I just continue to get beat down by them until he throws a good game. And he started the season doing that. So I'm up here again, and now I'm not. So that's why I'm drinking margaritas and beer tonight. Just kidding. Cinco de Mayo.
It's all your fault, Sean.
Yeah. Damn you.
Yeah. Look at Manaea's. You guys or whoever's listening, you have a second. Look at Sean Manaea's Baseball Savant page. You look at his percentile rankings. There's a lot of blue in there. This is a guy who, we've seen him. He had the perfect game, right? Didn't he have a perfect game a couple years ago against the Red Sox, or a no-hitter against the Red Sox? Anyway,
I believe it was a no-hitter.
Always to me exceeded expectations. He's always been fortunate to have two fantastic parks as you know, his home in Oakland and now in San Diego. There are plenty of people, I will admit, who are very high on Manaea and his skill set, particularly his pitch mix. I'm just not one of those guys. He is, if I'm reading this right, he is just almost never throwing a fastball. He's got a sinking fastball, but the pitches are all just okay. And I just don't see anything special there that would make me say, well, I've got to make sure that no matter what the matchup is, this guy's out there every time.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, like the pitch values on him according to Fangraphs are like they're fine, but like you know, he had a couple of years in Oakland where like his fastball was 8.9, 8.6 value, like 8.2 value, and that's phenomenal. But it's just everything has just dropped off.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just jumped off the cliff, man.
His velocity is gone. I mean, he's throwing his sinker 55% of the time, and it's at 90.7 miles per hour.
You know, he was always kind of a low 90s fastball thrower. So like that. Yeah,
but I mean, still the fact that he's not even throwing it anymore, and
that is
relying on all these breaking pitches. It just doesn't. It's gonna catch up to him, and it seems like it has for these last couple of weeks.
He feels like a guy who should be used out of the bullpen. Like when you're just throwing breaking pitches, like predominantly, like you're kind of a specialist, right? That's what it feels like with him.
I'd be very curious to know: is there another pitcher? So he's only throwing his curve 15% of the time this year. Is there another pitcher that can survive with just a sinker and a changeup? I mean, nothing that really provides deception. I don't know how he does it.
That is very, very. That is a very good question. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's people that can look that up in a heartbeat and could tell us, but I don't know how to look that up super fast right now, so I couldn't tell you. But that is interesting, and it'll be weird. It'll be interesting to find out what they do with Manaea when Snell comes back, right?
Yeah.
He should be soon, actually.
He should be back.
And Clevenger just came back, right, and pitched phenomenal. So
possibly one more rehab start or two, I think, is what I was reading earlier.
Yeah. So, Clevenger came back, didn't pitch phenomenal, but pitched well enough that you were like excited to be like, hey, Clevenger, fine, he's finally on the mound. Like, stay healthy, my friend. But I mean, they've got a lot of pitchers there in San Diego, and it's just a matter of like, is he really gonna stay in that rotation? I mean, Musgrove, Darvish, just tons of guys. I don't know unless they go six-man rotation.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll stick around.
Gore has come in and done great this year as well. So when they've got Musgrove, Darvish, Gore, Clevenger, Snell.
Yeah,
you gonna go to a six-man with Manaea? Maybe.
That feels like a disservice to all the really good pitchers they have.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's why I say like maybe Manaea just goes to the pen like with that kind of pitch repertoire. Like that seems like a good fit for him. So last up here, or not last up for me at least, is Alex Cobb. Guy, I always get like with you, AJ, and Kyle Gibson, right? Like to me, it's Alex Cobb. I always get sucked into Alex Cobb. I'm like, oh, he's doing good again because he's had really phenomenal seasons.
Success. He's also had failure.
You see him have a good start in San Francisco, and you just think like, oh, here we go again. San Fran figured out another one, right? Yeah. And then the last 2 weeks now, it's just like, oh Lord, what's going on? It's just abysmal here. Now is he hurt though? I mean, he only just have that horrible of a start.
I think he did get hurt again, actually.
Because so now that I'm looking at it, it's 0.2 innings pitched. That's true.
Yeah,
but
I think he's at 10 innings on the year.
Right, but I'm talking about the last couple
last
of
2
weeks
weeks,
here.
yeah.
Last 7 days. Was it a rain out? No, he just got destroyed.
Did he just get destroyed, and that's what it
No,
was?
not
I
even.
mean, there we go. So, yep.
3 walks.
5
Yeah,
runs, 1
1
earned over 2/3 of an inning on Sunday's All
Oh,
Center.
that's
So
why.
there we
All
go.
right. I was gonna say. I was like, he's
Oh,
only
but he
got
did
1
get
earned.
injured right before that. It was a
Oh.
groin injury. So yeah,
Yeah.
so he's only had the 1 start. But so all right, so with a guy like that, right? He's coming off a groin injury, he gets rocked. Are you just out on him at least for now? Like hoping maybe he's not fully healthy, or we thinking Cobb can regain the San Fran magic, that pulled Gosman out of the crap hole and made him who he is today.
I mean, I was seeing, granted, it was a very small sample, but I was seeing some really good things out of Cobb in those those limited innings, particularly before that a game when he came back. With starter with at least I think 10 innings pitched, Cobb has the lowest expected ERA of anyone in the majors this year. So he's been getting some extremely bad luck, particularly in that last start. Just sort of got batted to death. Some of the things that happened there. So I was intrigued by 12 K per 9. Like I said, here's his bat at 452 on.
I just saw that. I was going to say that.
So huge.
Yeah. He's another guy that Fangraph seems to think he's not throwing his fastball at all, which might be true. He throws a slider, a sinker, and a curve. Sometimes these stats on that seems weird, but honestly, he hasn't thrown a fastball that much in quite some time. It seems like. But to totally get rid of it, that seems a little odd. But you're talking about another guy. Tell me another guy who's throwing splitter and slider or sinker.
Yeah,
basically 1-2, and that's it.
And that's it.
That's a weird one, right?
Yeah, and I will admit, we talked about Peralta earlier. We looked at Manaea. These 2-pitch pitchers, it is proven it's tougher for them to make it through the lineup 3 times. Last longer in games. Christian Javier is another pitcher like that who we have to watch and see. He's really a 2-pitch guy, so it's tougher for these guys to last longer. So can he survive with literally only 2 pitches that he's throwing this year? Mm-hmm. We'll see when some of the luck turns around a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. He's intriguing. I'm always going to get sucked back into Alex Cobb, hopefully, but last guy up, AJ, have some fun with
Dylan Bundy, Mr. Cinco de Mayo himself. I mean, May the 4th was not with him, and
now he's on the COVID.
Got destroyed. And let's just shoot into industries right now because Dylan Bundy tested positive today for COVID, as did his teammate Luis Arraez, and their teammate Bailey Ober is already on the IL-10 with the groin issue. And another teammate in Minnesota, Miguel Sano, is headed into surgery for torn meniscus in his left knee. So he's looking at an estimated 4 to 8 week recovery.
Bad news for Minnesota.
And that's not looking good. Former Minnesota Twin Nelson Cruz, who I already expressed disdain for earlier, is day-to-day with a back issue, but he was available off the bench today. I did not happen to see if he got in, and if he did, he probably did nothing. Speaking of COVID, again, Joey Votto has jumped on the COVID IL 2 days ago. He is not tested positive, but something is off with Votto right now, so he's on that IL. His teammate Jonathan India.
Let's do Bundy, man. Let's do Bundy. Let's not get into this yet.
I've already gone through like half of them though.
Just do Bundy.
All right, fine. Let's reverse to Bundy. So aside from the COVID and getting completely shellacked by his former team yesterday, he was looking pretty good. Is it facing the old team jitters
wow, he got rocked
and
by
or
Tampa
COVID?
Bay too.
Or is it just facing the old division foes? A combination? I mean, which Bundy can we trust?
Well, I have never been more out on a pitcher than I am on Dylan Bundy, and it's not just this year. It's because of how much money he's lost me in DFS. It's because of a lot of different things that he's done. But I mean, simply, I think he just got the Joey Votto treatment. You know, Joey Votto, you're terrible. You get on the COVID list. Bundy, we may have to fix some things. Get on the COVID list.
Well, he did test positive, so
yeah. I'm completely out on Bundy. I think it's not something where he couldn't be a usable streamer in the absolute right matchups, but he just, I want some level of consistency when I have a pitcher at least on my roster, and Bundy's never once in his career shown that.
Yeah, he had that good season when he first showed up in LA 2 years ago, and it was like, oh, all right. I mean, hey, maybe it was Camden Yards, and then last year. I'll talk about last year, and then this year he starts off like it wasn't striking people out, but he was great. And I mean, it was against good competition too. I mean, he had Boston in there, and say what you want about the we mentioned Story and Verdugo struggling big time, but the White Sox, he blanked them. Like, he was facing some pretty good teams, and then just he goes on the road against Tampa and Baltimore and gets absolutely whacked. And neither of those offenses were doing anything. They've been bad this year on offense. Baltimore's come alive. They've hit 4 home runs tonight, so I'm like, oh, all right. Who knows what's going on? Maybe
all it took was facing their old friend Bundy.
Maybe they
we can hit balls. All right.
Well, yeah. So they faced Bundy, and then they faced another division rival or ex-division rival of Chris Archer tonight, and crushed him. So remember that guy? Yeah.
Sadly.
I mean, I don't know. I never quite know what to do with Bundy. I sadly bought into him in one league and was like, sure, let's try. I was just sort of desperate for pitching, and of course that was right before the Tampa start. Held on to him for last night's start and was like, oh, damn it.
So it's your fault.
It is my fault.
Thanks.
It is totally my fault. But
thanks for putting my jinx on the guy that I had.
Totally my fault.
Dick.
All right. Well,
so
that's what we got
injuries.
for Stock Up, Stock Down. Back over to the injuries. I don't know what you've covered, so you're just going to finish it.
All right. So I was finishing off the Jonathan India retroactive to April 30th. He's on the IL 10 with a hamstring issue. It's the second time this year now. We've got Chris Bryant as of 4/29 was put on IL with a back issue. He has not resumed hitting yet as of today.
How many people took Chris Bryant over Austin Riley after he signed with Colorado?
Ooh. Nope, I do not have any shares of him. But the next guy I did have a share of, and that was Mr. Eloy Jimenez. I immediately dropped him, and he's on the IL 10 with torn hammy tendon. He had surgery on the 26th of April. He's likely out 6 to 8 weeks, so maybe right around All-Star breakish. Mitch Haniger is on the IL 10 with a grade 2 high ankle sprain. They were saying that this could be more of a measurement of how many months he's out as opposed to weeks. So not good. We already talked about Bailey Ober. We got Eddie Rosario is on the IL 10 with blurred vision and swelling in his right retina. And last but not least for the new injuries is Dunzo the CZ, Alberto Mondesi, torn ACL. Bye again. Just retire, please. Do us all a favor, because this is the first year I actually bought into you. as I even asked you, Joe, what was it? I was like, is it okay to take him with like a last round pick or something?
Yeah, I was like, I mean,
I needed a third baseman
sure,
somehow.
have fun, man.
Because I drafted Moncada, and I was like, you know what? Okay, why not? And he was okay. He was somewhat serviceable for the first few weeks.
He
and
wasn't. I don't know what you were looking at. No, he was.
I mean, it was a points league, so it was. He had gotten positive points on some days, so I was like, okay, all right, this is the modesty we've all been waiting for.
Positive.
All right.
No, he was not good this season, but
No,
yeah, I mean,
no.
I mean, I feel for the guy, man. Like, I've always he has shown flashes of being a phenomenal player. He just cannot stay on the field.
Yeah.
But no, this season was not good, man. He was batting 140. He hadn't hit a bomb. He stole 5 bases, so that's cool.
Yeah, I think that's where the points are. I was like, oh, sweet.
So I mean, yeah, if you were in a
whatever.
league that counted heavily sort of steals, and cool. But other than that, man, he was pretty atrocious. But
yeah.
All right, man, Ryan. That's all we got for the show, man. I want to thank you for coming on. I had a lot of fun talking. You brought a lot of great information. Once again, before we let you go, remind everybody where they can find you on Twitter and what you got going on this season, man.
Yeah, at Kirksey Sports is the Twitter handle every week, just like I did this week with the sort of dead ball environment. I'm doing a piece for Fantasy Six Pack on trends in fantasy baseball and Major League Baseball at large, and those will come out every Tuesday morning. And Kyle Tucker just walked off the Astros, so it's a good night.
Woo! The one league I have him in, I'm happy. Probably playing him in the other one. I don't know. I'm in too many this year. So, all right, man. Well, have a good night, Ryan. And I'm sure we'll do it again soon.
All right.
See ya. Oh, kicked me out too. Thanks, man.
It's like, all right, show's mine.
When are you going to let me do my job?
That is a bad. I didn't press the button. I didn't do anything.
I was supposed to bring him out, though.
Excuse me, the floor is mine.
I literally didn't press anything.
Oh, he must have just vamoosed.
That was literally you.
Anyway,
don't blame me.
Three more notable injuries for return.
I was going to ask you one more question.
We have
out of beer. Hurry up.
Teoscar Hernandez is likely to return this weekend from his oblique IL stint. Yoan Moncada slated to return Monday, also oblique, and Luis Castillo is on the IL 10 with a shoulder. He is also slated to return Monday, and that's all I got.
All right. So before we roll out, I meant to do this earlier and completely forgot I wanted to do it because I didn't write it down. I wanted to surprise everybody, but completely forgot. But we're a month into this season, 2 days from a month, whatever. What is the biggest surprise of the season for you? It doesn't have to be fantasy related. It could just be like standings. Like what do you think? What's your biggest surprise right now?
Wow. Okay. I think it's what we touched on earlier. Just this ridiculous lack of offense that we've seen continue through the whole season. But the first few weeks, it was also a lack of pitching. And, I'm pretty sure I said it before, maybe not necessarily on the show, but it's because of the strike, the lacking spring training, the rush to get through a somewhat spring training. So I can buy into the pitching for that. And the pitching has started to turn around a little bit.
Yes, it has. It
definitely
has.
But how much of that is based on this dead ball and whatnot, what's going on there. Some other surprises are just certain players that, we've had high hopes for, after breakouts last year or finally, coming through and playing well last year, versus guys that have been there and done it for years, and now they're just falling off. Sal Perez. The guy I was thinking of initially for the first part of that is Mullins from Baltimore. I mean,
Hey, he hit a bomb tonight.
he did. He's starting to kind of come around a little bit, but overall he's been, to me, disappointing. But he's got a 243 average. So I don't know. I just think the average in general is, when I look at that number, and I don't ever chase average, but just
I don't chase
looking,
average either. But
it's
you don't expect it to
hard.
be that bad.
Well, no, but you don't expect to look at your guys and be like, Jesus, like
You
I'm
literally just
really
need,
low
two
in
guys
average.
that can bat above 260, and you're probably good. Like, it's how crazy it is this year. So I'll finish up here, and I'm looking more at the standings right now, and like my number one shock is just Ryan mentioned the Reds multiple times. Do you realize how bad the Reds are right now? They
Yeah.
are 3-21. I saw this today and went, that's a typo, right? Like, that's not real. They've won 3 games. I mean, Tyler Mahle, like, is a guy who we all thought was, good. And he is the worst pitcher in baseball right now. Like, it's bad. I think he's got the worst expected ERA of any, like, qualified pitcher or something like that. Like, he does have the worst something. I forget now exactly what it is, but I did see it. It might be expected ERA. And then, like, on the positive side of the standings, right?
Before you go to the positive, the worst part about that, Joe, them being that bad, due to the new lottery, they only have a 16.5% chance of even getting the number 1 pick, being that bad.
Oh, Lord.
Nice.
You're right. You're totally right.
Now you can be positive.
So I'll end on the positive note, and I'll start with a positive note. There's 2 positives. One is, and I hate to say it, the Yankees winning 11 in a row
Bundy.
before last night. That's pretty crazy. Like, I didn't really expect the Yankees to be that good this year, and and that's even, with Gerritt Cole not being, stud Gerritt Cole for the entire year, but like the rest of that pitching staff has really stepped up, and the offense is crazy good. Rizzo's been really, really good. Aaron Judge, he bet on himself, right? And he's mashing the ball. Like, turned down a massive contract, and everybody was like, what? Like, everybody. And he's looking like he's going to get paid even more somehow. So, good for him. I'm not a Yankees fan. You're not a Yankees fan, but you can't ignore it, right? You can't ignore it. Then over on the other side of town, this is a cool story, man. Finally, the New York Mets, man, just crushing it right now. 18-9.
Not a cool story.
I keep feeling like this is gonna like fall apart. Like, you just expect it to, but
because
look,
it's the
Showalter.
Mets.
I love Buck Showalter, dude.
I know.
I love what he did for the O's, and I'm sure you do too.
Of
I'm
course
really
I do.
hoping this works for them. I really do. Look, could you imagine they're doing this right now without DeGrom? If DeGrom can come back like middle of the season and be DeGrom, how crazy would that be? Like, I mean, they'd have to be close to World Series favorites. Like, we know the Dodgers will be there. We know, at that point probably the Yankees will be up there and stuff like that. But I mean, the Mets, this is a good feel good story.
You're looking at potentially another Subway Series, World Series, which
I thought about that, but
would be I guess cool for New York and nobody else.
Nobody else. Exactly.
I mean, you knew the Dodgers and the Padres were going to be there. The Brewers are another team besides the 2 New York teams. That's the only teams that have yet to hit double digits in losses yet. I mean, the Brewers are they're just destroying the ball. So that's I guess it's expected, but unexpected. But that division in general is just down, it seems like, between them and the Cardinals, and then Pittsburgh, Chicago, and Cincy. We kind of knew we were going to be bad, but I would like to see, that was one of the other things that the radio stations were talking about here is if the Phillies go into this weekend series against the Mets and get swept at home after losing 2 of 3 last weekend, like, is that going to be the final dagger for Girardi and this and that? I don't know. But when I was listening to the game, I was like, oh, all right, sweet. They're up 7-1. I was like, well, maybe if they don't get swept, they're not going to be 10 games out of first. They could cut that down to 2 games out of first, potentially. And, who knows? And then I turned it on now and see that they lost 8-7.
Ouch.
So, yeah, that was awesome.
That's a bummer. Awesome. But, all right, man. Well, we have run really, really long. Sorry for the long show tonight, guys. But, we missed a week. It was for the NFL Draft Show. If you did miss that, we gave our live reaction with lots of great guests. So go ahead and rewatch that if you're interested in our live
awesome show. Check it out on YouTube.
Absolutely.
It was crazy. I mean,
dude. I mean, I couldn't even track this shit.
Absurd.
Absolutely crazy, Mike.
The draft
helping us out. You were supposed to just be behind the scenes like you are for this show, but you got thrust into co-hosting duties, and so what are you crinkling? Stop it. And so it was sort of like I couldn't even keep my head straight. I literally only had 2 of these the entire 3.5 hours of the show, and still couldn't keep track of stuff. It was madness. So it was like a record. It was a record number of trades in the first round. So totally unexpected. So anyway, thank you for listening, everybody, and watching. And good night. And hit that subscribe button. Check out fantasy6pack.net, and we will see you next week.
Bundy.